Meeting to order, and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
liberty,
and
justice for all.
for all. Thank you, everybody. If anybody sees Rob pop up.
I'm here.
He's on
I'm
now.
here, Diane. I just got in. I'm sorry. I had the wrong link. My fault.
Okay. Hi, Rob. Okay.
Hi.
We're all here and the party's ready to go. Okay. We have quite a few people on the call. So for public speak tonight, I am going to limit everyone to 1 minute. We have a lot to cover tonight. So I would like to do that. And Amanda, we could start anytime you're ready.
Okay, welcome everyone. So I just wanted to remind you that for public speak, if you have anything that you would like to submit for written comment, please email it to me at the end of the meeting. My email is adminassistant@andoverct.org, and I will put it in the chat. So we'll go one by one here. First up is Liz Lokiak.
I will pass for right now. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Kathy Palazzi and Mike Palazzi.
We're good. Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks. Sarah Warner.
Hello, I'm going to pass for now.
Thanks. Diane Grenier.
I have nothing to add. I just wish the Board of Finance all the best. You have an unenviable job ahead of you, and good luck.
Thank you. Jerry Creme.
Thank you for having me. I have no comments at this time, and I'm just here to give moral support to everyone.
Thank you. Shannon Loudon.
Nothing at this time. Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks. Aaron Boris.
No comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly Person.
Nothing right now, Amanda. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Derrick, I see you just popped on. Would you like to participate in public speak?
Nope, I'm good right now. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you. Kathleen Barrett.
Hi, thanks very much. Thank you, Board of Finance, for your really great hard work, and thank you for your continued efforts.
Thank you. Chris Bernard.
Nothing, just here to support AES budget and listen to the conversation. Thanks.
Kelly Haggerty. We'll circle back around. Jenny Morrell.
Nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy Kluzwiski.
No comments at this time. Just curious about what will be talked about during this meeting based off of yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Latesca.
All set for now. Thank you.
Thanks. Elizabeth Partridge.
Progress.
2011 actually.
Oh, Elizabeth Partridge.
No comment right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Holler.
No comment right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcy Miner.
No, thank you.
Thank you. I see another Louise has popped up. Louise Goodwin, is that you or is that a new Louise?
It's not me. It could be a neighbor.
Okay.
There's also a Louise.
Louise, would you like to participate in public speak? All right, next up, Adrian Mandeville. We'll circle back around. Christina Frazier.
I have nothing to say. Thank you.
Thanks. And it looks like Katrina Clay is connecting to audio. Okay, Katrina Clay, would you like to participate in public speak? Okay, it looks like we're all set here.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, Board of Finance members, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda that anybody wants to make?
How do you know? I'm good, Diane.
Okay, I'm gonna take that as a no. So we have no additions. Okay, let's go to item 4, budget workshop. So here we are, the budget failed referendum again, so, and by a greater margin than last time. So I think the town's taxpayers has spoken pretty loud and clear, and they want a much more conservative, fiscally conservative budget. So I'd like to go around and get anybody's thoughts on, well, I can tell you where I'm thinking right now. My thoughts right now is to take the town budget and the school budget and come in at a 0% dollar increase. Is kind of where I'm thinking right now. So I would like to get feedback from everybody else on where they're thinking we should go. We've kind of tried every other combination of things and nothing seemed to work. So this seems to be the only option I have. Just be aware, if we come in at a 0% dollar increase, it still will create a mill rate increase because the amount we need to raise by taxation is coming up. So it won't be a 0% mill rate increase. So if we're thinking about doing a 0% mill rate increase, then we have to find more money. So that's kind of laying the ground. So Rob?
Quick question, Diane. I'll opine later, but just, did you run the numbers to see if we zero out the town budget, what the mill rate increase is?
I did. Yes. If we take the town and the school both to 0, okay, so town and school, $0 increase from their previous year's budget, that would bring the new mill rate to 35.88, which percentage-wise is an increase of 0.76%, and the mill rate increase would be 0.27 from where we are today. We're at 35.61.
Just for everybody's info. That's
It's a
why.
small increase, but not a 0 increase. So,
Well, that's the difference in us not using as much this year from the general fund, from the unexpended fund balance.
right. So
I have a
And
question.
some
Oh,
grant
go
money.
ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead, Rob. You still talking?
No, I'm done. I'm good.
Okay, I have a question. What happens if we spin our wheels and go through this a couple more times? And is it basically, does it go revert back to what the current budget is? Or is there so much time we have to decide on a budget, and if it doesn't pass, we go back to the original budget that's currently?
So, go ahead, Eric.
I can probably answer that if you
Okay.
want. So the basic thing that has to happen is the town can practically delay the budget an absolute maximum of a month without going back to the bank and securing a line of credit. Because basically in August, we typically have roughly $1 million worth of bills, or correction, in July. And in August, we generally have between $2.5 and $3 million worth of bills. We currently have, if you think about what a 10% reserve is on the town side, that implies about $1.3 million. So, and normally when we do collections, like if the tax bills had gone out for July 1st, they're not actually late until August 1st, which means a large fraction of them come in at the end of the month. If we delay 30 days, that means a large fraction of them are coming in just before September 1st. And there's a chance that at some point in August, you know, the line of revenue coming in plus existing funds and revenue going out match. And we basically run the town down to zero cash, which is problematic. So what is going to probably happen is the Board of Selectmen will likely meet in a special meeting tomorrow, and they will set a mill rate. They have the right to do that in the case that there's no budget as of July 1, which will clearly be the case. And they take their best guess as to what the mill rate will be, and they file it, and the tax bills go out based on that. If they guess low, then there will be a supplemental appropriation to the taxpayers, which A, gets everybody wound up, and B, costs us about $5,000 to send out a supplemental appropriation. It's actually around $4,600. So if we guess on the high side, the town simply returns the excess money to the taxpayers in the following fiscal year. So that does not come with an additional cost, but then people are angry because you charged them more money than the ultimate budget was. So that's really what's likely to happen. But it's the Board of Selectmen's job to make that determination. And hopefully they will do that tomorrow so we can get the tax bills out as close to on time as possible.
But do we have?
Go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead, Louis.
Just really quick question, because I remember this happening once in the past. And I remember it was the Board of Finance that set the mill rate. And maybe my memory is wrong, so anybody can correct me. Eric, is it really it's in the town charter that's the Board of Selectmen that does it?
Yes, it's a combination of charter plus the applicable state law. And I think I gave you
Last meeting read Dennis's opinion.
Yeah, I gave you Dennis's legal opinion on what had to happen for that.
Okay, fair enough. I haven't had a chance to read every email. I was at work today fairly late and I just got home. So my bad. I just remember that being different in the past, and maybe we did it wrong back then.
Probably what happened is you recommended to the board what the mill rate should be, and they adopted it. And I would suggest that based on your discussions today, if you come up with what you think your target mill rate is, that you make that recommendation, as you did at your last meeting, to recommend, you know, the mill rate that we pushed to, you know, to town referendum. Whatever decision you guys make today, probably request the board set the mill rate at that. They can't ignore you, but, you know, but they would probably, you know, listen to your recommendation.
And they are scheduled for a meeting tomorrow night, right? First and foremost, to discuss that exact thing you just mentioned.
Correct.
Yeah.
So eventually we do have to pass a budget. That was my question.
Right.
we do have to pass the budget, and this is the process, what happens when, during that time that where the budget is not passed.
Right, and we
We
can't spend
default
any
to
more money than
spending-
we currently have. in the
Right, and
budget.
Eric, we default to spending it to last year's budget level until we pass a budget, but we still have to
Okay.
continue the process and pass the budget.
Right.
Correct. And there's also some additional burden on you of the Board of Finance because you have a lot more responsibility for approving spending between now and any budget when there's a budget in place. So I think that means certainly there will be a meeting sometime in July for you to approve spending if a budget is not in place by then.
Questions about the process? Okay. Anybody else's thoughts? Come on. Kurt.
You stole my thunder, Diane, but you are the co-chairman, so I was going to suggest the exact same thing. I was present last night with Jerry Creme and Eric when they read the result, and I was very much taken aback by the numbers, and basically the townspeople have spoken. Even with a resident trooper, I mean, that's there's no way he's leaving. But anyways, I was going to suggest the same thing you were, that we zero out the Board of Education and the town budget to zero, and go from there, no matter how we have to do it. As far as the numbers go, I mean, we can't tell, of course, we can't tell the Board of Ed how to spend their money, other than the fact that we can set the costs, but we should do the same thing for the town. And that's basically it. I think it's the only, right now, the only way to get out of this thing.
Right.
Okay, I have another question.
Okay, Louise.
Okay, what happens to the Board of Ed? Their obligations as of right now, if the budget is not passed, what happens to their obligations? Do they have to scurry and find money to pay for that elsewhere, or?
Well, they would be limited to what their current budget
Do
is.
you mean the new teacher contracts, Louise?
Yes, the new obligations, yes.
That's the question. I can't answer it. I just wanted to clarify what she was asking.
Yeah. Is Valerie on? Maybe she can answer that.
In the charter, Eric.
I am on, and we do obviously, they get paid every 2 weeks. So if we were continuing with the same budget, we wouldn't get to that point where we were beyond the budgeted amount from last year in the fall. Does that make sense?
Basically, you will get by for now, just like the town's going to have to do.
Right.
If we zero it out, so.
Right, because for the time being, our spending would have to remain exactly as it was, but
Correct.
since teachers don't get paid all at one time, they get paid bi-weekly, then yes, we would do exactly what the town is doing.
I think we all understand that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I agree then at that point that what Diane and Kurt is saying, 0% increase at this point. I go along with that.
All right.
Okay.
Linda?
Hi, and I also go along with it.
Linda, okay. Dave? Your last
All
meeting.
right. I'll be the one dissenting voice, and not even really a dissent. I'll just throw a monkey wrench in the works. And I'll just, this is a reiteration of things I've said the whole time. This is the struggle we've had the whole way. A budget that we can get through town meeting apparently can't pass referendum. A budget that we can pass at referendum may not make it through town meeting. I understand everybody's take that we have to zero everything out and see what happens. I am sincerely confused as to how that would possibly pass town meeting, but so be it. Clearly the votes are here and I don't have them. You're going to do that, you're going to do that. I fully expect that if we take a zero increase budget to the next town meeting, it will fail. But hey, maybe we have to do that. Maybe that's part of the process. So be it. But I'm just saying, if you think of it this way, we took a budget to town referendum, the first one, the one that failed 55-45. That one was higher than the budget that just failed 64-36, I think was the numbers. I ran them. I did the math on Eric's numbers when I got the email. So, clearly at the referendum level, people want cuts. We also know that we took lower budget into town meeting that failed, or not even lower. I mean, this whole process has been this dichotomy between what happens in the town meeting and what happens at referendum and how to thread the needle. I am comfortable with going along with the board if needs be. I'm going to be the only vote anyway if I disagree, so fine. But I don't expect, if you zero it out, that you're going to get a budget that passes. That's my take.
Dave?
As far as what?
Your thoughts on where we should go next for 0% increase, or any other thoughts? Any other
I'm sorry,
ideas?
thought you heard me. I said I agreed with the previous comments before Rob.
Okay. All right.
So Diane, I think the one thing to consider, and it's something to consider, and ultimately you guys are going to have to make the decision on that because there's pluses and minuses, and that is plugging some of that with the America's Care Act funding. And I don't like to do that because you're basically propping up a budget with, for lack of a better term, temporary funds. But because you have a dichotomy in the voters, and you have to do something, I think it's pretty clear if you bring the school budget back in at a 0 budget increase, they're going to bring enough teachers to the meeting that it's going to fail at meeting, which is what's been happening. So my only thought is that if you do commit to spending some of the America's Care Act funding for the education side, you might get away from that criticism, and you might get it up enough to get the support of school, but reduce taxation enough that you get a majority of voters to agree. Or not.
How viable is that, Eric?
I
How
don't
do
think
we-
that's our purview. I think that's got to come from the Board of Selectmen side, because someone's got to look at that stuff. I've looked at the regulation, and there's
I
a
mean, we
lot of
talked
stuff
about
in
this
there. You can't
before,
read
how
the
viable.
sheet and make an opinion out of it. You have to read the regulation. And if you haven't read it yet, we're not going to get it right. So, and I don't know how the town wants to roll that out. That's a Board of Selectmen.
Well,
purview.
yeah, can I just throw in for a second here? Is that possible?
Sure, Adrian.
So I have 3 concerns here. First of all, it's not up to the Board of Finance to decide what happens with those funds. That would be Board of Selectmen. 2, we don't have the money in a bank account yet. I am not going to spend money we don't actually have yet. And 3, we don't even know exactly how we can spend it yet. And there's been a lot of people banding around. You can spend it on this, you can spend it on that. But the one thing that was very clear is you're not allowed to spend it to reduce taxation. So you're basically, everyone talking about spending it to offset this budget is going down the wrong path. You can't do that. That's the one thing you absolutely cannot do. They were very clear about. You cannot offset taxation with it. So if there was something specific that, that somebody was looking for to make something happen in town, and it was wrapped into this budget as a capital item, you could maybe try to pull that out. But to say you're going to spend it to offset the school budget, that's the one thing you can't do. You can't spend it to quote unquote offset the town budget. So that's going down a path that's going to get us all into a bunch of trouble. So I,
Broke up there, Adrian.
So I understand what people are saying, but it's kind of going down the wrong path. And I guess, last but not least, I think my concern is that when we start talking about this, the one thing that was very clear in the referendum is that the school budget was too high and that the town budget was too high. So supplementing the school budget by taking money out of that so that the school budget still stays high, but the taxpayers don't pay it now, they just deal with it later, I don't think is the answer either, because then we're in a bigger issue next year. If we put those guidance questions on there, the taxpayers speak, we're supposed to pay attention to it. And the school budget being too high was very clearly, in those questions. I mean, it was 400 and something to 200 something. It was literally 2-to-1 against that school budget at the number it was at. It's not just about what the taxpayers are spending. It's about the it wasn't, are your taxpayer dollars going into it too high? It's, was the school budget too high, period? And the answer was yes. So you're 2-to-1 against on that. That's just my input.
I have my one quibble I'll throw out there. I don't disagree with that. I would just say that because of the a lack in the question for it's okay level, we probably had we had about 100 undervotes there. I can say I was one of them, for instance, when I went in to vote, and there was an option of too high or too low, and I thought it was just right, given that I supported the budget. I was one of the big voices that wanted that compromise budget through. I did not vote on either of those questions because I thought they were both appropriate numbers, not too high, not too low. That said, even if you add in all the undervotes, I get it. You have 400 some odd to 200 some odd. I get it. I just want to add that quibble. That's still an issue for me when we do these advisory questions, that we need to do them better.
Yeah, the problem is that you can't put 3 on the advisory line. There's something we actually asked for, and unfortunately we were told we couldn't do.
How do we fix that, Adrian? How do we fix that?
We have to talk to the register of voters about getting a different computer card or something. I would guess. Honestly, I don't know the details of it, but that's definitely something we can ask about, because it's frustrating for all of us.
Food for thought for later. Let's not get into it now, but some other time.
Exactly. Yep, exactly.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion that we zero out the town budget and zero out the Board of Education budget for the this fiscal year.
Motion on the floor to put a 0% increase in the dollar amount for the town budget and the school budget for this coming fiscal year.
Yep.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 4. Dave, are you an aye?
I said aye.
Okay. Rob, are you a nay?
I'm a nay, just because I
Okay.
think it's the wrong answer, but I understand where we're at.
All right, so, hey, we got something done. Checked off those. Okay, so the
This is
motion
something.
passes. So, Sherry, I would be looking to you, and I hope you're on the call.
I am.
To make the changes to the budget spreadsheet. Add the educational cost sharing back in, because we didn't talk about that, and that did come back in. So we add that back in. We take the town down to 0, the school down to 0, and we'll leave it up to Eric and the school to decide where to find their money to make their ends meet. Eric, I don't know if it's $50,000 and some odd cents for the town. I don't know if there's a line item you're ready to tag that to, or if we'll just work it now and you can think about it. We're not going to tell you what line item to cut, just that you have to get rid of $50,000.
Okay, I mean, I can tell you it's all, at this point, probably gonna have to come out of capital, because there just isn't enough, the operating budget really couldn't sustain that level of cuts. So it will happen.
So we have proposed budget to go to town meeting next week. So let's move on. So we're down to item 5, the town administrator's report.
So the only thing I don't have a lot in terms of my administrator's report. Frankly, the focus has been two things. One is the budget and the budget process. And the second thing is getting all the end of year stuff done. I will say the audit is complete. At the next Board of Finance meeting, if you so desire, we can have Mike, our auditor, present and walk you all through the audit at the next meeting, if you so desire. I guess that kind of depends on whether we actually have a budget by the middle of or by the third week in July, or whether we're still in the budgeting process. So I would suggest that would be your kind of next task. And presuming we don't have a budget, Sherry and I will be coming back to you with spending requests in July, because technically all spending has to be approved by the Board of Finance until there is a budget in place. So that will default to all of you.
Diane, I have something I want to raise.
Yep.
So we don't have line item control over the school budget, obviously, but we do, in fact, have line item control over the town budget, correct? So if we're zeroing out the town budget, shouldn't we specify what we're doing?
Well, there's $50,000 on there, so right now for that sum, do you care where Eric tags it to?
Well, the only reason I raise it is one of the past budgets we took to town meeting, we had cut $25,000 out of the road budget, I believe.
Yeah, but we put it back in the last.
I know that we did. I know that we did. And now we're cutting 50. So my thought is, if we're going to do this, maybe we need to specify what we're doing. That's my only comment. I don't have a specific thought as to how to divvy it up because, well, frankly, I think it's a bad cut. So I'm the sole no vote. So, but I just raise it from the standpoint of, I get it from the school budget. We have no line out of control. We can simply say what their overall budget can be. But at the town level, we absolutely have line item control, and maybe we ought to step up. And if we're going to make a $50,000 cut, specify what that's going to be.
Well, then the only cut areas are capital. And those are all those funds. So.
Right. It's capital. It's roads, it's trees, it's community center,
Public Works, Building Maintenance Fund.
Fire Department Equipment Fund.
Yeah. So.
What's up, Kurt?
Let's wait for Diane.
Yeah, go ahead, Kurt.
I have a lot of faith in the town administrator and his decisions on where the funding should come from. He's got a handle on it daily, and I would support whatever he does as far as making the cuts personally.
I mean, the one thing I have a hard time right now, and I agree with you, Kurt, and Rob, to answer your question, we have all these capital things. I'm not close enough to it right now to know where we would do the least amount of damage, and I guess I would be looking for Eric's recommendation.
So if you want to hear it, I'd be happy to give it.
Okay.
So if it were me, I would reduce 10,000 from the Bridge and Culvert Fund, 10,000 from Public Works Equipment Fund, 10,000 from the Roadwork Fund, 5,000 from Building Maintenance, and 15,000 from the Fire Department. That would be my, if I had to cough up $50,000, that's where I would take it.
All right. I'd like to turn that into a motion then.
Okay.
If we are to pass this particular budget,
right?
Understanding, of course, that I think it's the wrong course of action, that we should in fact endorse that specific list of cuts to the town budget, to town capital.
So let me just repeat what I think I heard, make sure we all got it right. Eric, you're recommending 10,000 from the culvert fund.
Yeah, Bridge and Culvert Fund, yes.
And culvert. 10,000 from the Public Works Equipment Fund.
Correct?
10,000 from the Roadwork Fund.
Correct?
5,000 from Building Maintenance Fund.
Correct?
And 15,000 from the Fire Department.
Correct.
All right, that's my motion.
Okay, anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, Louise. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 3, 4. Okay, Kurt, yes. Okay, unanimous. Any nays? Any abstentions? No? Okay, pass. All right. We make those changes to the budget spreadsheet. That'll fix that. Okay. On we go. Okay, so Eric, anything else for town administrators report?
Nope. I think we got bigger fish to fry right now.
Okay. Finance department report. So does anybody have any questions on any of the exhibits that came into the package for Sherry or Eric? I don't have any. We're this far into the year, so it is what it is. I think the biggest thing we have. Is there anything in there, Sherry, that you want to bring to our attention or that you're concerned about, or Eric, you, anything?
So I just want to say one thing. We did get a request from the Eastern Highlands Health District that when we're spending the money that we're getting in, the relief money that we're getting in from the state, that they're asking for about $1,200 go to the health district to offset their additional costs for doing the vaccine clinics. That's a prorated share for each town. And for the record, the majority of the costs for the vaccine clinics were borne by the town of Mansfield. The town of Mansfield kicked in about $120,000 to the health district to fund the vaccine clinic from their share of the previous vaccine relief money.
That is an eligible expense.
Very definitely.
So, I mean, do we have to take action on that now, or is that something we have to do in July?
No, I mean, we're not going to give them the money because we don't even have the money yet.
Right, right.
I'm just bringing it to your attention that that's, you know, the one I would say we definitely, as a board, you probably should endorse.
Anybody have any questions for Eric on that? All good?
I
Okay.
am.
Yes, hi
Yeah.
Sherry.
Hi. The one thing I would say is that on the revenue report, we are pretty up to date as far as recording all the revenue that we've received so far. There's a few more entries that we are going to be making in this month to bring it up to speed. But I think a lot of it has been booked and has been tied back to the bank statements. So I think we're in a good shape that way. As far as the expenditures go, we're processing checks and trying to get to a point where we know we're going to be. I think, truthfully, I think we're going to be in good shape. We're going to be in the black, which is good. And, you know, we're just trying to get to the point where we can say, okay, this is what it looks like. You know, making sure all the bills are paid, making sure that if we don't have an invoice for something, we call and we contact them. We're doing that now on a few vendors to make sure that we are up to date on our bills. And in particular, I contacted this week Dime Oil to make sure where we were at with our contracts for diesel and heating fuel. So I have the figures for that as well. They will be topping off the tanks, the diesel tanks, before the end of June 30th.
Okay.
Because we're low in them and we have the money, we have the allotment already in there. We haven't used everything yet. So we're authorizing them to fill the tanks up to the top as much as they can without being dangerous or whatever, because truthfully, I don't like to do it too high during the summer.
Right.
So they will do it carefully and bring us up to speed on our contracted amount that we were supposed to use. Other than that, I don't think there's any major problems here that I can see at this point. But it's, I continue to work with it and try to come out with a budget that will be in the black and that all our bills will be paid. And that's my goal right now.
Thank you very much, Sherry.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any questions for Sherry on anything? Everybody good? All right, item 7, budget transfers. We have a nice little spreadsheet. Thank you. I love it.
Yeah, right. Which is why you didn't get your agenda packet so late. I was determined to stay there as late as possible to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to get this done before the end of the year, so.
Yes, and absolutely. And so we did that.
Does anybody have any questions on the budget transfers? It's a spreadsheet. It was in our packet and.
Let me do one thing for you.
Go ahead.
And go forward and tell you the strategy I used with these budget transfers. Overall, what I did is tried to cover within departments throughout the budget first. And if I couldn't do that, there were particular line items that were too high and I couldn't cover them. I would try to cover them with other departments who had surpluses in. Because at this point, you can cross other departments and do that. If that didn't work, and there was only a few of them that didn't, then I left those amounts, totaled them up, and they were well within the contingency of $50,000. So that was my plan of attack, and I thought it would be systematically clear, certainly to the auditor, when he reviews this and the entries are made.
I was able to follow this. This was set out very nice. Thank you, Sherry. It was easy to follow. Does anybody have any questions?
You're welcome.
Is this did we use contingency last year?
I can't answer that, sorry.
Yes, we did. We used some of it, but not a lot.
Not as much as we did this year. Okay.
No, and that was one of the requests from both the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen, is to produce a budget that's tight enough that, a significant fraction of the line items are going to be over. So this is about as close as, this is a budget that's in the black, but it is barely in the black.
Right.
And I would anticipate next year's budget, will be looking exactly like this, and we'll be praying it stays in the black. Because there's not $50,000 contingency, on a $3.5 million municipal budget is not a big contingency fund.
Yeah, so what it does is it leaves us with plus or minus $14,000. And if everything else hopefully remains the way it is now, we should be okay. is my hope and projection.
Other Board of Finance members, any questions on this? I guess I will make the motion to say, motion to approve the budget transfers as listed on the packet spreadsheet totaling $85,948.80.
Second.
Kurt seconds. All in favor? Aye.
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 I'm eating dinner.
Aye.
Yum, I'm hungry. Yum, okay. Any nays? Abstains? Okay, motion passes.
Great, thank you very much.
Done. Yay. Okay, old business. I guess, Sherry, can you give us an update on the software transition and how it's going?
Sure. On the 16th and 17th, we had training with Edmunds on the software. That I believe went very well. They have downloaded our data and they have secured it on the icon that was placed on our computers so that we could, and it's a training icon, so that we can go in and look at our data in the training
environment, right? Yeah.
And work with it and play around with it and make sure everything looks right. So that's what we're doing now. We're going in there and making sure that, you know, things look the way they should look. Tomorrow at 1:30, they will do another data pull on both the town and the Board of Ed. And that, what that does is any transactions from the last data pull up until now will be brought in before going live, you know, so that we have the most up-to-date as possible to work with when we start to go live. There will be some journal entries that need to be made, I'm sure, and Eric Leonard from Edmunds, who is an accountant, is going to be working with me to make sure that both databases balance before we move forward on live. So
we anticipate all of this year's data to be loaded in. Okay.
Yes, yes, what they're doing is they're loading in fiscal year 2021, and then we're starting fresh live with 21-22. Now, technically, if we had a budget, I could get that in the 21-22 module too, but we do not. So that can't be done just yet, but at some point when we do, he'll be able to upload that from a spreadsheet, simply, you know, put all the figures where they need to be, and we can work with it. The good news is, like any other software program, is that if you don't have a budget, it's okay. We can still process things, you know, and pay things like payroll, which is going to be very important. It'll just give us an error message, which, you know, something we'll pay attention to and make sure that it's, you know, well within what we have in front of us that's not approved, but will be at the same level as, you know, last year. So we'll do that manually and start the process of, you know, making sure that the payroll is done. We're fortunate in that we outsourced our payroll, so payroll is just a journal entry that can be downloaded into the system and recorded to all the accounts, which will be nice. So we won't physically have to make that journal entry. We can just download it and it'll bring it right in, making it easier.
Looking forward to seeing the new
Yeah.
software up and running and the reports it'll pull.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think in a lot of ways, it's going to streamline a lot of our operations, the way we do things now, and make it easier to produce reports that are similar on both sides, town and board. So hopefully it'll be easy to read and understand, and, you know, it'll be all uniform, which is what we want to have happen.
Anybody have any questions for Sherry on the new software? Everybody good? Okay. Audit status. I guess Eric touched on it, but Eric, Sherry, is there anything you want to say on?
Other than it's done, and we had the final draft. We're just waiting for them to print them up. I believe they normally print up booklets for everybody.
Okay.
And then, like I said, he's willing to come to a meeting and present it and go over the entire audit with the board, which is something that is customary for them to do. I think that would be a good idea, to have him do that. And then the only other thing is I have to write up a corrective action plan of how we're moving forward with the new software, making things more efficient, you know, putting some controls in place that we need to have there now that we have a staff, an assistant and a finance director. I think we need to put things in place so safeguard any future errors or whatnot, you know, it's important to do that. So I will write a corrective action plan, putting those things in order. I will have him review it. He will say either nay or yay and offer his opinion, which I will incorporate that, and it has to be submitted to OPM with our audit.
All right.
So that's where we're at with that. So work in progress. I tend to work with him next year to get the audit done in a timely manner, certainly way before what we're dealing with now. We should ideally have it done by December. And OPM has drafted a email memo to all districts who need to comply with that, and we're one of them. So we need to really step that up and work a little bit better and faster, I guess, on this whole thing. You know, part of it was COVID because, you know, it was real difficult. I know in my other district to do the audit was difficult doing it remotely, you know, when you had to scan so many documents and, you know, back and forth. They were working remotely as well, right up until they're still working remotely, actually. And I'm hoping that that changes because they need to come out and do preliminary work. And I'd rather have them here on site to do the preliminary work for both the Board of Ed and the town. So we'll see where that goes. I'll have a conversation with them on that.
Okay, thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome.
Update on the community center building committee. The committee continues to meet monthly. We've kind of have committed as a committee to put out a little update document to the town that goes on the community centers, building centers webpage that will give a brief high-level bullet point overview of where we're at and what's going on. We've published a preliminary draft site plan from the town engineer. And I think really we're just working on the RFP. Eric, do you have any update on the RFP? And
yes, the RFP was posted as of Monday of this week. We've already had two survey outfits, contact me. I have a site walk scheduled for, I think, next Monday with one of the contractors. So hopefully we'll get a bunch of response. We put it on the state BizNet. We published it. We put it on our town website. And I had our town engineer compile a list of all of the civil engineering firms that he felt were in the area that would handle a project such as this. And Amanda sent them all copies of the notice. So, we're doing what we can to broadcast it as widely as we can to those civil engineering / architecture firms that would likely take on this.
Okay, so that's where we stand. Things are moving along. We meet monthly and, just keep everybody updated. Veterans Monument Park updates. I don't even know if there are any since. Eric, do you have anything on that?
Nothing significant at this time.
Okay.
We've paid off Ron Bisson, the original contractor, for all the masonry and the site work that's been done to this point. That was done pretty much out of the funds raised by the Buy a Brick program.
Okay.
The town used some of the COVID relief money to fix the upper well that was problematic, plus the well pump blew. So, and then we also had to install a sand filter because we were getting too much sand in the, so we have a temporary sand filter on it also. We're anticipating more expense for the, for the irrigation system. And then also at some point when we bring in additional topsoil or we do a surface treatment on the facility. So there will be additional expenses. Much of the physical work will be done by Public Works in terms of trenching from the existing well down to wherever all the sprinkler control systems are. And from there on, it would be the sprinkler contractor. I've also had a long meeting and site walk with Lenco Electric to look at the electrical requirements for it. So that's where we're at with that.
Any questions for Eric? No, everybody looks good. Online permitting system. How's it going?
It's going slower than I would like, but it is coming. They have pulled the basically all the property information from Vision Appraisal. So they have gotten all that into their database. So that's kind of the first step, and they're supposed to be working on integrating and building out the forms. He seemed to think that the first week in July, we would start training on the software.
Any questions for Eric on that? Everybody good? All right. Let's move on to new business. On the agenda, we have Jed Larson on the call, correct? Yes, I see him. So Jed has a request on him for funding for the Planning and Zoning Commission to hire a consultant to develop an affordable housing plan in accordance with the new state law. Hey, Jed, you want to bring us up to date on what you're looking for?
Well, so I think a meeting or two ago, Eric came and discussed the fact that we've got a requirement to come up with an affordable housing plan by July of 2022. And we were looking at using some money that was set aside for the upcoming plan of conservation and development to do that. We were asking the finance board for that funding at that point in time. I was not able to attend that meeting, and you folks rightly thought that I should come and make my case a little bit, so here I am. Since then, the state put out, they sent us an email saying they were going to do round 2 for grants to fund the affordable housing plan. And so we didn't make it in on time for round 1, but Eric, helped out, essentially did the submission on that the day after the last Board of Selectmen meeting, when they approved us requesting the grant that we did. And I think Eric heard back yesterday that the grant was approved. So we asked for, I think, $9,500 to go off and do an affordable housing study.
Jed, one correction, because I had to ask, because the email that we both got was pretty vague. They approved our submission. They didn't actually approve the grant. However, she said it was first come, first serve, and we were pretty early in the process.
Yep, well, I knew
So
we
she
got it in there
basically
quickly. Okay,
told us we would get it.
very good. Appreciate the clarity on that. That was my question when I saw that, but I assumed that she sounded enthusiastic. I thought we were going to get the funding. Anyhow, so the purpose of the request tonight is what I would like to do is go off and try to get Bill Warner to do the affordable housing study for us, as opposed to going through the request for proposal process, which again, July 2022 isn't right around the corner, but it's going to come up fast, and I don't know how long it's going to take to get all of this done. But with the money we've asked for, which exceeded what Bill Warner thought he was going to need to spend to do it, I think Eric and I talked about there's some things we can do to make sure we get a good quality product, and in fact, that we get a product that will fit right into the next plan of conservation and development. I'd like to go with Bill because he did our last plan of conservation and development. He did a subsequent Andover incentive housing zone write-up, which I think is the basis for the affordable housing study. Bill likes Andover. He's familiar with Andover. He knows Andover, and I would hope that we would be fortunate enough to get him to do our next plan of conservation and development. So that's really the nature of my request tonight. We've got the money coming from the state. None of it would have to be paid for by the town. And I would like to go get the guy who's worked with us on several of these plans in the past to continue, because I think he knows what needs to be done.
I have a question. So Eric, I'm going to address this to you because I don't have my charter stuff in front of me. Our charter requires us to do 3 bids, correct? Does that apply if we're using grant money?
Your purchasing policy requires that.
Right.
But remember, that is your Board of Finance policy, and you as a board can decide to use your policy or not. So there's no charter issue that I know of with doing that, especially not on something that's not taxpayer money anyway. It's just simply a policy decision whether you feel comfortable with the argument that of sole sourcing it, because of prior history with the individual. And I would add that the town got a $20,000 grant, which I wrote, to do the incentive housing zone, which is part of the reason we're able to do this so inexpensively, is because we had an initial grant and we did most of the legwork in the background for that initial grant. So I think just for the sake of continuity, it would make sense, because Bill Warner did the original study for the grant. Having him do the follow-on and produce the actual plan does make sense to me. But
where is that policy published? Is it on the town website? I guess I just haven't read it. So it's just for me, I haven't read the policy, so I'm not really
No, I can certainly send you a copy of the purchasing policy.
Is this something that we can? Number one, I'll speak for myself. I would like to read the policy to understand, and I don't know if we've ever And if the policy applies to grant money versus taxpayer money. That's a question in my mind. And if it requires us to get 3 bids, I'm just trying to understand, what have we done? Have we ever done this in the past? And under what circumstances? And I don't have the history on that. Does anybody from the Board of Finance have any other questions on this? I get your continuity of information working with somebody who knows us, and I agree with that. But before I can say we would waive a policy, so to speak, we need to understand what it says.
Correct. So I will read you the paragraph where it says competitive bidding. A minimum of 3 responsible quotes / bids shall be obtained for purchases in excess of $5,000, but less than $15,000. Capital purchases or contracted services require public bidding in accordance with this policy. So your policy does state that you should go through a competitive bidding process. I can tell you that your board has authorized me in 1 case so far, about 1.5 years ago, not to do that. And that was because time was of an issue for something.
Board members, any thoughts? I think we have the policy in place for a reason. I don't think we have a burning time issue. I think as long as we're timely in getting our bids out and getting them back in, we can still meet the time frame. So I don't see at this point in time any urgent reason to waive our policy on that. Does anybody have a different opinion?
Diane, Dave here. I think we should get bids. I still think the town has the prerogative to select a certain bidder, even if they're not the lowest bidder. I think it sets a bad precedent if we start just assigning jobs to people. We need to be transparent and open. It doesn't mean we can't select this individual. I think we need to be transparent in the process.
So I guess, are you looking for a motion on this?
I have a question before you make the motion.
Go ahead, Louise.
In the policy, is that a guideline or is that a mandate where you have to do it?
I mean, it is your policy.
Yeah, it's our policy. So it really is not, if you feel like doing it, it's because it's a written policy. We would
You have to follow it.
we
Okay.
should follow it.
Unless we affirmatively waive it, yes.
Right.
So here's where the wiggle room is if you so choose. Under applicability, it says capital purchases or contracted services of any value must be publicly bid in accordance with the provisions of this policy. However, the following supplies, materials, services, or construction may not require bids. One of the categories is those providing professional consulting or technical services such as architecture, engineering, planning, medical, accounting, data processing, legal personnel, or management services. So you're not technically required to under your policy, but it does seem to be very strongly suggested. That's why we brought it to you for a decision.
I'm inclined to keeping with our policy, just to keep. I don't think there's any great sense of urgency looming on the horizon. I would rather follow the policy. Does anybody?
I have because we don't know it that well, I'm thinking about maybe holding off on that and maybe talking about it for the next meeting because we don't have a deadline on that. Should we look into that a little bit further?
Well, if you're going to put it off another month, we'd probably be better off just putting out a bid and not wasting another month
Right,
of discussion if that's going to be I looked at it and said either you're going to authorize it or you're not, and if you're not, we'll just get on with the bidding process. Not a problem.
So I guess what I'll do, any other discussion that anybody wants to have on this subject? Kurt,
And I think the consensus is to put it out to bid, follow the procedure for now. And let's move forward with it. We don't want to hold them up. And like Eric said, if we, put it off a month to discuss it some more, we're still going to end up with the same result. So personally, I think we should just put it out to bid and follow our policy.
Eric, are we looking for a motion on this or just verbally guidance?
So I think at this point we were looking verbally for guidance, because the next thing will be to put out the RFP. The only discussion I think is still worth having is on the off chance we don't get the grant, would the Board of Finance go along with taking money from the POCD implementation fund to pay for this? Because this will be this will be added to the current POCD, and it will basically be one of the chapters in the future POCD. So it is applicable to that. I'm just I don't want to put out an RFP and then find out we don't get the grant and then be stuck and then the grant deadline's coming.
Well,
So
we have to provide this document anyways to the state, correct? So there's a deadline coming.
correct.
So we have the funds put aside for it already?
We do.
Okay. So if we've budgeted for it and if we don't get the grant, then we'll have to look at, using budgeted money for it.
Right, as long as the board is understanding and okay that if we do not get the grant, we're going to end up having to tap the POCD implementation fund early to pay for this part. But this then will just be one of the chapters in the POCD.
Anybody else have any questions on that or any concerns? No? Okay. Sounds good. Okay, on here, timing for tax collection for upcoming year. Does that count for what we discussed on how the mill rate gets set and we're gonna send the bills out, so on and so forth, or is there something else you wanted to talk about on that?
No, I mean, I just want, so I had sent a timeline to the Board of Selectmen, which basically laid out, for setting the mill rate, what would happen. So that you all know, right now, last year fiscal expenses in July and August were about $3.64 million between the town, Board of Ed, and RAM. The usable cash on hand currently is basically 3 million, actually less, about 300,000, about $2.8 million. July 1, we're gonna have somewhere around $2.6 million of cash. Normally in August or in July, we spend a little over $1 million. And in August, we spend around $2.7 to $2.8 million. So if we have not gone out to taxation on August 1st, we'll be down to about $1.4 million total cash on hand, going into a month with $2.7 million in expenses. So I guess what I'm saying is, there have been a number of people who have just said we should just hold off and do the taxes when we know what the final mill rate is going to be. And I don't think that's financially prudent. And I would suggest that you as a board make your opinions known to the Board of Selectmen and encourage them to pass a mill rate, set the mill rate and put out the tax notices.
Where we stand today, they have a special meeting on deck for tomorrow to really set the mill rate, right? That's their intention.
Well, that's their discussion.
Okay.
Whether they do it or not is, I would hope they do it, but I thought they would do it at the last meeting and they did not, so.
For a finance member, we kind of made a motion to have a 0% increase budget, which would bring the mill rate to 35.88 mills. Is that what we want to recommend to the Board of Selectmen for a proposed mill rate going forward? They can always do something different, but so if we're expecting a 0% increase budget and this budget passes, this is what the mill rate would be. I'm not in favor of really over collecting taxes. I'd like to be close to be on the money. So it's a crapshoot because we have no idea where this budget is going to go. So I think it's something the Board of Selectmen have to take under consideration. But right now, all we have for them is what we think we want, are going to town meeting next week with a budget, which would be 35.88 mills. I would rather have the selectmen set a mill rate and issue the tax bills. If they set the mill rate tomorrow, can the tax bills go out first week of July?
Pretty close. So if they set the mill rate tomorrow, the tax collector will be working on it either Friday or Monday. And we've got a bunch of paperwork we have to submit to do it. So I don't think we're going to it's not going to be in everybody's hands July 1, but it's not going to be a super long delay. We're talking a 3 or 4 or 5 day delay.
So we anticipate to really technically issue July tax bills that have to be due and payable by August 1st. So no one's discussed extending.
Well, there may be a regulation that requires us to give people 30 days from the time they get it to pay. I sort of feel like there is. So I suspect we may be looking at a final taxation day of like August 7th or something like that.
Okay. All right.
But we'll do the minimum delay we legally can.
Does this require a motion on our part, or is this just, it's a recommendation. We don't have any authority to set the mill rate. It's in the Board of Selectmen's hand. Does anybody feel any differently on what we should be recommending to the Board of Selectmen?
I do.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Louise.
Yeah, I think we maybe should go up a little bit higher than that, just in case. I don't know if it would do any undue hardship on people. It's better to get a refund next year than to have to pay extra. So I would go a little higher.
Well, that would be saying if the budget increases.
Yes.
Never had good luck on budget increases at referendum, so I don't know. So the downside of keeping it, well, let's say if we keep it at what we're proposing for a budget right now, and for some reason we propose a higher budget, we will have the expense of sending out a supplemental tax bill.
Correct. That's about a $4,500 expense.
Right. So the other side of the coin is if you over collect, if it's not a huge amount of money, we do not have to give it back to them, until the next tax year, but we would still have the PR issue of what the taxpayers thinks, and what if someone wants their money back, then are we going to process refunds for every person who complains?
The answer would be legally, we're under no obligation to. The normal way that's handled is just you true it up the following year.
Right. So either way, it's not a good thing.
So as I understand it, it would be the cheaper way to go a little bit higher now. So, because you're not going to do supplemental.
We will only have to do supplemental if we
go under.
If
To
we
the
have
extent this
budget.
budget does not pass,
Right.
then you're
Right.
into either supplemental or refund or roll it over to next year land.
Right.
Which, you know, I kind of think is going to happen. But you don't, in the past, the last time this was done, my recollection is we did overshoot by just a touch. We were just a little bit high. It was not a significant amount of money. And so we did, in fact, roll it into the next budget. That's what happened last time. I do not recall great public outcry over that a year later when it came up again. I could be wrong this time, but you know, I see the point that you don't want to spend $4,500 just because. The flip side is, you know, what do we think the likelihood is of a higher budget passing? We've taken 2 higher budgets to the referendum that have failed. So, you know, you can pick your poison, basically.
Linda, you have a?
I would rather do a tad higher than what 0 is. I'd rather be on the safe side.
What's the midpoint between the budget that just failed and now and what we're proposing?
I don't think I would go that high because the budget that just failed was a 2.5% increase on the school. So that was, hold on, let me see if I have it right here. It was 36.67 mils.
Mm-hmm. And the current proposal is
35.88.
so the difference being less than a mil.
Hold on. I'm
Yes.
not doing anything in my
So if you
head.
split the difference, you end up with what? Not even half a mil.
79 mils, 0.79 mils.
Right. So basically 0.4 mils is the split the difference number. If you, I'm just throwing this out there, you know, to clarify what a midpoint would be. I'm not proposing it. I'm just saying
Midpoint would
if
be
you
like
wanted to pick a
36.
point between them, there it is.
It'd be like 36.28, would kind of be like a mid.
Right. And recognizing this is a recommendation. We're not even setting it ourselves. So.
Diane?
Yep. Yes.
If I can ask, why would, if the Board of Selectmen have to make the decision, they already know what we've done to this evening. And we keep, you know, going back and forth about what we should recommend, what we shouldn't recommend. And it is just a recommendation because they have to do it by charter. We just go in with what they want and then let them decide what they're going to do. They're the governing board of this town. So they know what we've done.
Right.
That's a good point, Kurt.
It's a good point. You know, I would kind of think they kind of know where we sit by the action we took tonight on the proposed budget.
Exactly.
And from there, they can take that information and do what they would like with it.
Right.
So the only thought I would have is if you, yes, it's ultimately the Board of Selectmen's responsibility, but you are the Board of Finance, you know, and this is pretty much the center of your job responsibilities. If you are concerned about wanting to consider a slight overshoot, if you set the mill rate to 36 even, that would accommodate a potential overage of just over $30,000. So that would be one possibility if you wanted to go from 35.88 to 36 even and send set the mill rate at that. If you were looking to hedge your bets slightly.
I'd like to make a motion to do that. To set the mill rate to 0.36.
36. Okay, motion on the floor.
To recommend that the board of selectmen set
To
that?
recommend it, yes.
To recommend a mill rate to the Board of Selectmen of 36 mills. Is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
Linda seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Louise, Dave? Rob?
Pete
did you
said
say
aye.
yes?
I'm
Rob,
gonna abstain, Diane.
you're abstaining? So we have Dave said yes, Linda said yes. Louise said yes. Kurt, how do you feel?
I'd like to leave it like it is and just let the Board of Selectmen make the decision.
Join me in abstention, sir.
No, I'll say no.
Okay,
Okay,
good man.
so I'm going to say no. So it passes. 3 say yes, 2 no, 1 abstention.
Does it? Only half said yes. That actually fails.
Right.
From the group that's here, though, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2
There's-
no's and 3 yeses,
But there's 6 of you present.
right?
Majority.
So it's a simple.
My abstention
has to
made it
be a
fail.
Simple majority, and 3 said yes out of 6. That's not a simple majority.
Oh, so the abstain is what screwed us.
Correct. Yes, it did.
You know,
Okay, so that.
Okay, Rob.
something that, as Kurt pointed out, is not our purview anyway. So,
All right, so thank you, Eric, for the guidance on that.
So can I just verbally tell the board that the mill rate that you're shooting for at the moment is 35.88 based on the budget that you've recommended to go to town meeting? Okay.
Anybody have a problem with that?
No.
No? Okay,
it is what it is.
it is,
Let the Board of Selectmen take the hit.
yeah.
We took ours.
We'll be talking again next week. All right, so let's move on to approval of meeting minutes. So, and to the essence of time, I'm going to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for Wednesday, May 26th of a regular meeting and Thursday, June 3rd, 2021 of a special meeting minutes.
Second.
I'll second that. Oh,
Like Rob seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, yeah. Okay, we kind of talked about liaison reports already. We're down to open board discussion. And I want to say, thank you, everyone. You're a wonderful group of people to work with. And I know it's been tough with this budget season. We have to make hard decisions without any information. And it's a difficult spot to be in. And it's like getting a crystal ball. I think we got to get a magic 8 ball and now do that to make our decisions, because it would probably help us, because it's hard to predict what's going to happen. I appreciate everybody's opinion, and everybody's opinion counts. It makes you think, it makes us better at what we do. So I thank you for that. And I want to say, Dave Hewitt, thank you for all your service and all your hard work. We'll miss you. I'm sure you're not going to miss us that much when we're meeting on
I really feel bad for Dave. We can't get rid of him. You know,
I should have ridden Alfie to the sunset already.
poor
And
guy
here he
wanted to
is.
go a long time ago.
Isn't there a special tomorrow I gotta attend?
You know? Yeah, if we have a meeting tomorrow, yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
Push to the
Yeah.
30th, right? 30th. So I thank you, Dave. You know, it's, takes a good person to work for the town and volunteer your time because it's important that we do this work, and thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to thank you, Diane, for taking the reins when Mark's not here.
You're welcome.
Fine job. Fine job.
Thank you. All right. Anybody have anything else you want to say?
Other than ditto,
Kurt?
In regards to the money coming from the federal government, the 900 and some odd $1,000. I know, I think Sherry's working on it with a document, and I don't know who else, but personally, I'd like to see some transparency and get the word out to all the boards and commissions in town of what this money can be spent on. I think right now it's still up in the air of where and what it can be spent on. And I think the townspeople, along with the boards and commissions in town, should know that, in case there's some requests out there that may pop up, whether it be the senior center, whether it be the school, the fire department, or any other library, what this money can be spent on, and then have everybody line up to put in their requests. But right now, it's just a document of 150 some odd pages or whatever it is.
137 pages. And if you only
137. I
download
mean,
it.
I started looking at it, but oh my Lord, it's
I have read the document. I have it as a PDF, and I have yellow highlight all over it of salient points that I think are relevant to us. I've done that legwork. But I don't know what the town is doing as far as digesting this, because with the Treasury regulation, you have to read the regulation,
right,
and figure out what it says, and then try to apply it to our situation. So there's a lot of
that's my point. So and I think it should come from the the finance department, along with the town administrator, and just and the board of selectmen to let everybody know what we have to do, and then let us do our part on however we have to administer it. So
anybody wants my document that I've marked up, I'm more than happy to share it with you. It's a long read, so it's not an easy read.
Would the town attorney be included in that as far as researching it?
The town attorney?
Right.
You're gonna pay a lot of money for that.
yeah, that's true.
You're gonna pay a lot of money for that.
Okay.
No, I think between the town administrator and the board of selectmen and the board of finance, we can get the word out to everybody that what's available and what's not available. It's going to come in 2 increments anyways, so we get plenty of time to look at it and plan, I think. So
I have sent to the Board of Selectmen a preliminary list of the things that I've parsed that we could potentially spend that money on. There are definitely other things not included in my list, just to give them a little food for thought. I think that is going to have to be a serious Board of Selectmen discussion as to what they want to spend that money on.
But I just think it should be transparent to everyone in town, especially the boards and commissions in town, of what it can and cannot be used for.
I think we all feel that way, Kurt. I agree.
Yeah.
Diane?
Yes.
What's the date on that document that you received? Because we've received several
So
other.
I am actually looking at the regulation itself, published in the Federal Register. So, and it's from May 21st. So I'm not looking at any fact sheet, no summary sheets, because they will never tell you the whole story. So,
well, we do have a contact person that is handing out the information to towns and to anyone who's applying for the money and getting it. So he has the document that says there is flexibility within spending of that grant.
The contact is from at the state level or the?
Yeah, at the state level.
State level? Are they willing to give you information in writing?
Yeah, because I have the emails. I'll just forward them to you. Most recent ones.
Please do, Sherry. That would be good.
With
Because
the documents, with
So
the
this is
documents right on there. We had a PowerPoint presentation given to us too, that's on their website that went into what we can spend this money on. And it went through a whole detailed process of the flexibility and things that they've opened up where we can explore and safely spend that money.
And what state office has published?
OPM.
OPM, okay.
Yep.
All right.
That's where we're getting the money from. It's coming from OPM.
So I
think
think
those
if there's,
emails would be good.
yeah, I think if there's any information that is interpretive, that we get it in writing and it gets sent to us, because we should be looking at it. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Well,
that's why I want to know what date
Yeah.
you were using.
Yeah.
And so I will
So-
share everything to date that I have.
With the understanding, obviously, that it's the Board of Selectmen that's going to make a call, but
Right.
it's good for us to understand it. So if
Obviously.
there's information, if there are emails that are going around,
Mhm.
we should see those.
Okay.
There is also in the federal regulation, there is, an email address to ask questions of the Treasury Department on things. So, in the past, I have worked with Treasury people on banking regulations, because that's where all the banking regulations come from. So,
I do have a contact person. His name is Mark.
of course, they're not that helpful, I'm telling you, because they'll just refer you to the section of the regulation to read. They will never
Yeah.
opine on anything, because they don't want to make a legal opinion. So, so that's, the more information we have, the better, I think, that we share it all.
Okay. I'll get that out to you.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I can tell you at a town administrator / town manager level, that's a frequent complaint right now, is still a thought that there's some lack of clarity on how it's actually going to be implemented and how the requests are going to be evaluated. So I don't think anybody's lining up to necessarily spend the money the day they get it in their accounts. I think everybody's still a little unsure about some things. I mean, I think the categories on which we can spend it on have become clear, but what documentation has to be submitted and what that has to relate back to is still less clear.
I think as long as we do our due diligence and, when someone's from the state level is giving us, oh, you can do this. And if the regulation itself is contrary to that, then you want to get something in writing from the state to say, yes, it's okay. Because, so, you're going to have to answer to somebody for the money, because we have to report on what we spent the money on.
Right. That's the whole reason I brought it up.
Right. And, so, somebody, a lot of this stuff is very gray, and we don't want to be stuck holding the bag. As long as we do our due diligence, and take our reasonable course. And our appetite for risk, which is the Board of Selectmen's purview. All right, we have public speak. Go around.
So we are going to kick off public speak with Scott Person.
I'm all set tonight, Amanda. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz Lokiak.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Thanks. Valerie Bruno.
Thanks, Amanda. So first of all, Kurt, I'm really glad that you brought that up. I'm a little disappointed though, because for 3 months, the response to when we thought we had 319,000 and now we have 1 million, the response is it's a gray area. And Sherry told us 2 months ago at a meeting that there was clear guidance. And so I'm a little disappointed that for 3 months, the answer has been, we don't really know how we're going to use it yet. I'm really hoping that tomorrow night that the Board of Selectmen will have an answer, because that's the last chance that we'll get before referendum to know if they intend on using that to supplement some of the cuts. I understand the response of the Board of Finance tonight saying the town will come in at 0 and the Board of Ed will come in at 0. And that kind of sounds great on the surface, but if we don't address the $1 million tomorrow, what happens then is the town after referendum has an opportunity to spend that million to supplement the loss in their budget, and the Board of Ed does not have a way to get the $97,000 that it lost. And so that is very difficult, and it's not fair to the taxpayer to say for 3 months we knew that this money was going to come in, but we didn't do our due diligence to find out how we can spend it. Sherry has clearly said that we know how to spend that. So I hope that Adrian voicing his opinion tonight does not speak for the whole Board of Selectmen tomorrow. And I do hope that the Board of Selectmen will listen tomorrow to the potential of securing 97,000 of that money anyways in costs and expenses for the Board of Ed. I do hope that happens so that they then will get the support of parents and the rest of the community at referendum on Tuesday, and we can put this to bed. Thank you.
Thanks, Val. Kathy Palazzi and Mike Palazzi.
Thank you, Amanda. We're set.
All right, thank you. Diane Grenier.
That would be me. I just wanted to comment on a comment from Rob England. It's an ongoing issue about the advisory questions on the ballot. And it looks like we can have 4 or 5 questions, but each question can only have 2 answers, too high or too low. I'm just confused as to why this option hasn't been brought forward before. If question 1 was something to the effect of Board of Selectmen budget is too high, too low. Question 2 is the town budget just right, yes or no. We can add questions, we just can't add answers. Why hasn't that been explored? And I guess it probably has, and I just don't know what the answer is.
For what it's worth, I have the same question. Thanks, Diane.
I think from what I recall, that the Board of Selectmen had a special meeting to go over the questions, and I don't know, I didn't stay for that whole meeting. So I don't know what the end result is, but it was their purview to craft the questions. And that's kind of, and the 4 questions I think came out of the Board of Finance. We would like to know these things. We proposed things and it evolved from there. That's how I know. Eric, I don't know if you have a different take on how it evolved.
No, it is the Board of Selectmen's decision to ask or not ask questions at the referendum. There is a state law that states that you can only ask essentially too high or too low alternatives. The town's attorney has verbally told me a couple of times that his interpretation of that, even though it pertains kind of to voting, although it says like voting tabulator, his interpretation is that their intention is for you to only ask yes, no questions, not, like 3 possibility or 4 possibility questions on a ballot. But I could see Diane Grenier's point. If the Board of Selectmen so chose, they could ask that question in multiple ways so they had more than 2 possibilities. But I also wonder at what point is it too confusing for the people voting? And that is always a concern. And I think we also need to make it clear that when we send people a notice, and that notice includes a copy of the ballot, they can't just fill that ballot out and send that back into the town, because several people have done that probably thinking they just voted at the town election. You know, and I don't know how to solve that problem either. But that's clearly happened.
Okay, thanks, Diane. Shannon Loudon.
Thanks, Amanda. I just want to thank the Board of Finance for all of your work, and I mean months worth of work. I unfortunately don't believe that your budget will pass next Tuesday evening, and agree with Robert England that for some reason we can pass budgets with increases out of budget meetings and then they fail at referendum. And that's a conundrum for Andover right now. But given that Chair Choquette stated that even a zero budget increase for the town and or the Board of Education will result in a mill rate increase, I just want to let you know my belief based on my reading of the regulations and the Local Recovery Fund Act is that there should be no concern whatsoever about the use of American Rescue Plan funds for education, for example, to be deemed ineligible by the U.S. Treasury Department because they would not have been used to fund a reduction in net tax revenue, nor to make a deposit to a pension fund, which are the two specified ineligible uses of American Rescue Plan funds. So I just want to be clear to distinguish what Mr. Mandeville keeps on spouting, which is that it can't be used to reduce our taxes. Based on what Chair Choquette said this evening, there's no possibility of that occurring. So that there should be very flexible use of the American Rescue Plan funds. And I hope that the Board of Selectmen will actually make some allocations from that and recommendations on that at their meeting tomorrow night. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Kimberly Person.
Nothing at this time. Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks. Kathleen Barrett.
Hi, thanks. I'll hold my comments. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Chris Bernard.
Good, thanks.
Thanks. Jenny Morrell.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Erin Boris.
All set, thank you.
Thanks. Jed Larson.
I'm all set. Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks. Kelly Haggerty.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you. I think I'll hold my comments for now, but thank you very much to the Board of Finance for all of your hard work. And I hope we can reach a common ground.
Thank you. Georgette Conrad.
I just wanted to thank the Board of Finance for all their hard work. I know how hard it is. I've been there and done that. Other than that, I have nothing else to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Georgette. Melissa Lateska.
All set, thank you.
Thanks. Elizabeth Partridge.
No comment at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Holler.
Nothing to add. Just want to thank you guys.
Thank you. Marcy Miner.
Hi, I'm sure you guys are tired and want to get going, but I did have a question about the survey questions. Has anyone ever looked into a way to do that differently? We basically spent $2,500 plus a lot of time to ask a lot of questions, or actually just 4 questions. And could this be done a different way? Perhaps Survey Monkey or, I don't know if there's different ways to get those answers without having to go to referendum. It's just something I was would throw out there to see if anybody explored that.
I mean, I haven't, these advisory questions have traditionally been done on a referendum type situation, from what I can remember. The only other way I know how to gather information is to get some kind of survey, townwide survey done. And, you either do it on a website or, but I still, you don't get a lot of participation on townwide surveys. So there's a lot of options available. We just haven't really put our heads to think about what's the best vehicle to get feedback. Last year, one of the things we did do, because the Board of Finance had to make the decision on the budget and there was no referendum, we put a lot of information out on the website and tried to get feedback via the website. And it was helpful information, but it didn't tell us a lot. So, there would have to be a better way of gathering information. That's my experience. I don't know, Eric, if you have any different opinion.
No, the last time we sent a townwide survey, we sent it to every household, multiple ways, including a hard copy. Had copies in the library, the town hall, everywhere we could think of, transfer station. We got around 200 responses. So 1/3 of the number of people that voted in this referendum when we asked questions. So I think that the problem is getting enough of an accurate representation of the public to be able to make decisions based on that survey. I wish there was some better way of doing it than what we're doing now. I'm certainly willing to explore other possibilities because I don't want to go through 6 or 7 budgets every year. That's annoying and expensive.
I have a feeling if you put a group together to find out, you probably could do better. There's a lot of new, a lot of things, a lot of new apps and websites and ways to gather information.
Well, last year, to put it in perspective, we spent a lot of time trying to get feedback on the budget. I think all total, over all the platforms we asked, we probably got feedback from no more than 30 unique individuals. So, that represents 1/20th of the people that voted in this last election. So, and that was with a concerted effort to get feedback every way you could. We had an email platform, we had a platform through the town's website, we had a separate survey form, we did it via Facebook and social media in general. I'm sure there are other ways to do it, but I'm not sure we're going to get enough of a sample to really do what you're hoping to do.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marcy.
Thank you.
It's a good idea. All right, Christina Frazier.
I have no comment. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Paula King.
All set. Thank you.
Thanks, Paula. Joanne Hebert.
Oh, it wouldn't be fair of me to comment. I had an important conflict.
Joanne, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, so no comment. I had a conflict. So it wouldn't be fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Thanks for being here. All right, did we miss anyone?
You missed me.
Oh, Jerry, last but not least, go right ahead.
I wanted to thank the Board of Finance for their hard work, as well as Eric Anderson, Sherry Holmes, and you for giving up so many hours to the budget issue. It's a very difficult issue. You're being asked to read people's minds correctly. And sometimes that's a difficult thing to do, is to read somebody's mind correctly. Between the town meetings and the referenda, it's a difficult task. And I appreciate the fact that you're all willing to give your time to be here and to do this. I'd also like to thank all the people who come to these meetings and care enough to educate themselves about the process and what is going on. There's no easy answers to this. And my hope is that some point we can use the money that's given to us by the federal government. And I feel like they're giving us this gift and there's all kinds of strings attached. They're like giving you a present and telling you you can't unwrap it and open it and use it. And that doesn't make sense to me. I really don't understand why it can't be used in the town for the things we need, be it the education budget or the town budget. It just doesn't make sense to have money sitting here that the government gives you and they say, well, they give you 100, what is it, Diane, 137 pages?
Yes.
I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of pages. And you probably need to be a Philadelphia lawyer to figure them out. But I just appreciate all the work that everybody does. And I hope at some point that money can be used to the benefit of the town and the school district. And I hope everyone has a good night. Thank you for being here and thank you for your work that you do.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, did we miss anyone else? And I do apologize. The little boxes keep moving around every time someone arrives or leaves. So thanks for your patience.
What you think?
All right. Thank you.
All right. We are at the end of our lovely time together. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Sure, makes a motion. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.